answers? I think I'm entitled.
You want answers!
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
I think you can handle the truth. Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Glenn Tate. Folks, this country is covered in great patriots. Some may call themselves patriots. Others may call themselves preppers. Some may just call themselves Americans. Some may call themselves free men. Right? A lot of names, but the idea is universal. That is that we are the people and we ought to be free. And on top of it, we need to be independent thinkers and individually prepared, because all kinds and all manner of ridiculousness is upon us. Now, the title, Uncle Sam Wants You. Remember that? Uncle Sam wants you. Uncle Sam needs you. Uncle Sam now wants to fight with you. It's like, what? Where did this come from? Folks, history is replete, meaning it's full, it's chock full, not of nuts and berries. Well, there are a lot of nuts, and berries being fruits. Yeah, it's chock full of fruits and nuts, but it's also full of facts. And I'm going to give you some recent examples. I'm going to give you some very old examples, but this is where we're at now. Now, I want to take you back to Rome. Rome, the world empire that was just around the Mediterranean, but it was the world empire. Actually, I take that back. They did possess Gaul or France, right? This is long before the Visigoths. Before Germans were Germans, they were a bunch of barbarians. That's right. In other words, they weren't civil the way the Romans were. How they would civilly show up with an army and civilly stab you to death. Yeah, the Romans were real civil, but that was civilization as we could best point to and say, see, civilized. They'd show up and kill you in formation. Very civil act, is it not? Anyways, that government, Rome, I'm going to have to roll my R there. They were engaged in World War. World War Rome. Folks, I'm in a good mood, but it has definitely hit the fan. But Rome was engaged in World War. They went to the west, into Gaul, France, España, Portugal, right? They went around to the north of Africa, into Morocco, Tunisia. They weren't called that back then, right? There was, they went across the top, across Libya, into Egypt, Macedonia, Turkey, Lebanon, and the Holy Land. You bet, folks. Also, they took over Greece. They took over Dalmatia, the Croatian states, all of those little city-states there. That's right. They had very small countries there in what has become known as, Yugoslavia, Bosnia, that area. Anyways, that's the world at that time. So Rome was engaged in world war. Their government, Rome, went to war with other superior military nations. They were manned. They were equipped for world war and conquest. Rome. Okay. Then, mighty Rome, superior Rome, the military nation, started cannibalizing these countries. I mean, yeah, they went there, they conquered them, they got the spoils of war, but Rome was thirsty for wealth, and they really punished those countries. No more expansion. Rome expanded, the Roman Empire, and then it stopped. They stopped conquest, getting wealth from a bigger and bigger circle. They started taking what they had and then living off of it exclusively. Instead of expanding and getting the plunder of war, they quit expanding and began to digest the wealth of those nations. And then, as a superior military police state, Rome started targeting its own people. It started coming in and fighting its own people, people it's already conquered, people that were supposedly living under the protection of the Roman Empire. The people, having formerly been protected by Rome, severely under-equipped and under-armed, became the subject of the terror of their own government. It became despotic to its own people in an effort to maintain control and its lavish lifestyle. It was a super state, Rome, a super state that failed. Now, we're doing the same thing today. The same thing today. Little message there to Jolene. Very good. We're moving on. Folks, the same thing today. 100 years ago, the world, the planet as we know it, was covered in superior militarized nations. You had the United States of America, you had England, you had Germany, you have Russia, you have the Ottoman Empire down south, that's Turkey in the Middle East. You have all of these superior military countries. And so they engaged in world war. The world, any part of it that was worth having, they were manned and equipped to fight each other superior military nations. And they fought World War I, then World War II. The Japanese came into World War II with a great naval armada. A huge industrial powerhouse emerged. It kicked the stuffing out of the Chinese. It was covering the Pacific in an expansion. You know, I'm not ignoring Germany and then Russia, the Soviet Union, and Europe, just talking about the whole world, military nations. And something changed. Right? There's not a lot of conquest there. There was a lot of cost, because war on this scale, war on an industrial scale, not only cost a lot to create this military madness, but the destruction it wreaked all over the world was incredible. The United States of America was one of the few nations engaged in the war that didn't suffer the destruction, even though it bore the expense of the cost of fighting those wars. So consequently, you could say, much like Rome, countries said no more of that World War stuff, right? So then superior military nations began fighting smaller, under-equipped nations in an effort to kind of imperialize them. We had the Vietnam conflict. Soviet Union had its Afghanistan. France had Vietnam and other both South American and African nations it colonized. England colonized other nations and had to start fighting within them, right? They wanted to imperialize and profit from them, but not spend all the money on the war machine and face destruction. So what was once like Rome taking over the world, they were like, hey, that shit costs money. We don't have that kind of money, so now let's kick the shit out of little people. And then, folks, just like Rome, nations around the world, these great, powerful nations, America, Soviet Union, Russia, European nations, China, Japan, Australia, these superior military nations are now superior military police states, targeting their own people, just like Rome. The people are not militarily trained en masse. They are severely under-equipped compared to the police state, their own government, right? And nations are becoming more despotic, tyrannical. They're attacking their own people in an effort to maintain control of their own country. They're not expanding and kicking the shit out of other militaries. They're not beating up on little countries. Now they're beating up on their own people. Their own people. That's right, folks. They're trying to maintain control of their own territory as the super states fail, just like Rome, just like the Persian Empire, just like the Chinese dynasties, just like Egyptian dynasties. They're failing. They're pretending they're not failing, but just like Rome, the United States government, the European governments are attacking their own people. Their own people. They're attacking their own people. They're going after their own wealthy people that do not agree with the politics and policies of the political class. They're taking them and trying to take their wealth the same way Rome did. Once again, let's look at where we're at today and then compare it to historical precedent. Our country used to fight big status, World War I, World War II. Then we started fighting little foreign countries. Can't even win those wars because of poorly equipped guerrilla resistance. And now America is concerned about its own people, trying to dominate and control, to rule every bit of their life with an iron fist. Now, these iron-fisted controls can be protracted, that is, last a long time, decades. Look at the Soviet Union. It expanded for a while and then stopped. It expanded its Soviet empire and then stopped. And then it started to contract and tried to control its own people, to dominate its own people. I know it started that from the very beginning, dominating its own people with its new political crap, communism, Marxism. But soon, right, just a few decades in, they started to really feel the pressure and pain. It's a failed political system with a failed strategy for dealing with people. How do you motivate people? Well, you'll motivate them to save their own lives, but you won't motivate them to become productive. So using fear and threats controls people, but they don't become productive. So today, let's look at our country today. The United States government is trying to mandate people do everything it commands. It's trying to lock people down. It's trying to say you can't travel. It's overtaxing people. It's attacking wealthy people like Mike Lindell, President Trump. It's going after its former military leaders that were once coveted great military leaders, General Flynn. Right now, the United States government is cannibalizing itself. It's cannibalizing and living off of the people. Here we are. We're witnessing the failure of a super state that is punishing its own people. And that's how this works. When they punish the people, the state fails. Persia, Rome, China. Those are historical examples way back. Recent history shows us the same consequences. It shows us the same pattern of behavior. A great expansion, a stagnation, and then a collapse. Are you prepared? Folks, send this video. Send it out to everyone you can. Let them know, wake up, there's historical reasons we need to look at what's happening. We need to understand the risks, the threat, the danger, where we're at. This is a very dangerous time, and the people, folks, the people in charge, whether or not they're aware of things as I described them, they're aware of things in practical terms. They know what they're doing is wrong. They are desperate to maintain control, and they'll do anything to hit and meet that end. Understand how dangerous this whole situation is, how volatile it is. Because unlike Rome, which took days, weeks, and months to send the emperor's decrees to the far corners of the kingdom, if you will, we live in an instantaneous world where an event can happen in New York City, and within 5 minutes, millions of people across the country, all the way to the other end, and indeed around the world, hear about it and start reacting. Get prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. Support this network, the network of freedom. While we can, folks, we need to share this information and help others become better prepared. Chance favors the prepared mind, does it not? Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. What do you need to survive a tyranny? Will farmers farm if they're being destroyed by the government? Will farmers farm, grow livestock, grow food if there's no supplies? Becomes tricky business, does it not? Get prepared now. Semper Fi, Godspeed, and I'll be back.
Cut out the jibber jabber. Don't be babbling like a fool. Say what you got to say. That's all. Then shut your dang pie hole.